This fat guy sees an ad for a new gym guaranteeing to reduce anyone's weight by 5, 10, or 20 kilograms on the first day. So he goes and tells them he wants to lose 5 kilograms. They strip him and lead him into a huge gym with all kinds of ropes and parallel bars and ladders and tell him to wait a minute. He's standing there when on the far side of the gym a door opens and out steps a gorgeous blonde, stark naked with a sign saying, "If you catch me, I'm yours." He starts running, and just as he gets close, she starts picking up speed. Before he knows it, he's running all over the gym, up the ladders, down the ladders, across the parallel bars, here and there. And just as he's about to catch the blonde, pop! She disappears through a door. In comes the management, who lead him to the showers and then weigh him. Sure enough, he lost exactly 5 kilograms. He's back on the street and starts to think, Jesus, I was so close to catching her if I had a little more time. So he races back to the gym and says, I want to lose 20 more kg. No problem, says the manager. Again, he strips and is led to the large gym. This time, he's standing by the door when it opens. Out comes a gorilla with a sign, "If I catch you, you're mine." One day a blonde came home from school and came to her mother and said, "Hey mommy, today in school we learned to count. The other kids could only count to 3, but I can count to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The mother responds, "Very good, honey." The blonde asks, "Is that because I'm a blonde, mommy?" And the mother responds, "Yes, dear." Next day the blonde came home and went to her mother and said, "Today in school we learned our ABCs. The other kids could only get to D, but I can get to K. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, I, H, J, K. The mother says, "Very good, honey." The blonde then asked, "Is that because I'm a blonde, mommy?" The mother responds, "Yes, dear." The third day, the blonde come home from school and said to her mother, "Mommy, today in school we went swimming, but I was the only one who had breasts. Is that because I'm a blonde, mommy?" And the mother responds, "No, honey, it's because you're 25. A blonde was speeding in a 35-mile-per-hour zone when a local police officer pulled her over and walked up to the car. The officer also happened to be a blonde, and she asked for the blonde's driver's license. The driver searched frantically in her purse for a while and finally said to the blonde policewoman, "What does a driver's license look like?" Irritated, the blonde cop said, "You dummy, it's got your picture on it." The blonde driver frantically searched her purse again and found a small rectangular mirror down at the bottom. She held it up to her face and said, "Aha, this must be my driver's license," and handed it to the blonde policewoman. The blonde cop looked in the mirror, handed it back to the driver and said, "You're free to go. And if I had known you were a police officer too, we could have avoided all of this." A flight is on its way to Sydney when a blonde in economy class gets up and moves to the first class section and sits down. The flight attendant watches her do this and asks to see her ticket. She then tells the blonde that she paid for economy class and that she will have to sit in the back. The blonde replies, "I'm blonde, I'm beautiful, I'm going to Sydney, and I'm staying right here." The flight attendant goes into the cockpit and tells the pilot and the co-pilot that there is a blonde bimbo sitting in first class that belongs in economy and won't move back to her seat. The co-pilot goes back to the blonde and tries to explain that because she only paid for economy, she will have to leave and return to her seat. The blonde replies, "I'm blonde, I'm beautiful, I'm going to Sydney, and I'm staying right here." The co-pilot tells the pilot that he probably should have the police waiting when they land to arrest this blonde woman who won't listen to reason. The pilot says, "You say she is a blonde? I'll handle this. I'm married to a blonde. I speak blonde." He goes back to the blonde and whispers in her ear, and she says, "Oh, I'm sorry," and gets up and goes back to her seat in economy. The flight attendant and co-pilot are amazed and asked him what he said to make her move without any fuss. "I told her first class isn't going to Sydney." An old blind cowboy wanders into an all-girl biker bar by mistake. He finds his way to a bar stool and orders a shot of Jack Daniels. After sitting there for a while, he yells to the bartender, "Hey, you want to hear a blonde joke?" The bar immediately falls absolutely silent. In a very deep, husky voice, the woman next to him says, "Before you tell that joke, cowboy, I think it is only fair, given that you are blind, that you should know 5 things. The bartender is a blonde girl with a baseball bat. The bouncer is a blonde girl. I'm a 6-foot-tall, 175-pound blonde woman with a black belt in karate. The woman sitting next to me is blonde and a professional weightlifter. The lady to your right is blonde and a professional wrestler. Now think about it seriously, cowboy. Do you still want to tell that blonde joke?" The blind cowboy thinks for a second, shakes his head and mutters, No, not if I'm gonna have to explain it 5 times. This blonde decides one day that she is sick and tired of all these blonde jokes and how all blondes are perceived as stupid, so she decides to show her husband that blondes really are smart. While her husband is off at work, she decides that she is going to paint a couple of rooms in the house. The next day, right after her husband leaves for work, she gets down to the task at hand. Her husband arrives home at 5:30 and smells the distinctive smell of paint. He walks into the living room and finds his wife lying on the floor in a pool of sweat. He notices that she is wearing a ski jacket and a fur coat at the same time. He goes over and asks her if she is okay. She replies yes. He asks what she is doing. She replies that she wanted to prove to him that not all blonde women are dumb, and she wanted to do it by painting the house. He then asks her why she has a ski jacket over her fur coat. She replies that she was reading the directions on the paint can, and they said, "For best results, put on 2 coats." A blonde calls her boyfriend and says, "Please come over here and help me. I have a killer jigsaw puzzle and I can't figure out how to get started." Her boyfriend asks, "What's it supposed to be when it's finished?" The blonde says, "According to the picture on the box, it's a rooster." Her boyfriend decides to go over and help with the puzzle. She lets him in and shows him where she has the puzzle spread all over the table. He studies the pieces for a moment, then looks at the box, then turns to her and says, "First of all, no matter what we do, we're not going to be able to assemble these pieces into anything resembling a rooster." He then takes her hand and says, "Secondly, I want you to relax. Let's have a nice cup of tea, and then," he said with a deep sigh, "let's put all these cornflakes back in the box." A brunette, a redhead, and a blonde were in jail when they decided to break out. The girls broke out and the brunette said, "Let's hide in that barn. They'll never find us." So they climbed up the ladder and then the blonde threw it down. The next morning, the cops said, "Come out with your hands in the air." The redhead said, "Hide in those baskets. They'll never find us." So the brunette got in the first one, the redhead got in the second one, and the blonde got in the third one. Meanwhile, the cops were getting a ladder set up and trying to get up there. Once they got up, the sergeant ordered them to kick the baskets, so the cop kicked the first one. "Rough! It's just a damn dog!" yelled the cop. The cop kicked the next one. "Meow! It's just a damn cat!" yelled the cop. The cop kicked the next basket and the blonde yelled, "Potatoes!" One day, a blonde was broke and didn't know what to do, so she decided to kidnap a child. She went over to the playground and saw plenty of little kids running around. She picked out this one little boy and went over and grabbed him. She told the little boy she was going to kidnap, and the little boy, knowing she was a blonde, didn't mind at all. The blonde wrote a note as the following: "To whom it may concern, I have just kidnapped your little boy, and I want $1 million in a paper bag under the peach tree at noon. Sincerely, a blonde." After she was finished the note, she pinned the note to his shirt and sent home. The next day, the blonde, she went to the peach tree at noon, and there was a brown paper bag. All the money was there, but there was a little note. It said, "Dear blonde, your money is all there. I just wanted to know how you could do this to another blonde." Subscribe to make you happy every day. Check out my Little Johnny playlist for more funny jokes.